Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Renu Tyagi from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today I am going to speak on the module Type of Resources and Planning Perspective from the paper Demographic Anthropology. The learning objective of this module are to understand what is a resource, to learn about the type of the resources, to explore the planning perspective of the resources, to comprehend the role of the anthropology in human resource planning and management. First of all, let's briefly discuss about the introduction. The past decade have seen an increasing interest in the planning perspective of the different type of the resources. Unscrupulous use of the resources can lead to the depletion of the resources and doomsday for the existence of the human on the earth. Thomas Robert Malthus in the 16th century have already promulgated that populations can outgrow the resources if left unchecked. Planning is such an important one and existed since creation of the human being on earth. In such a way, it is important to have the different planning perspective for the different type of the resource available. The beginning of the execution of the God's plan for the life is revealed in the book of Genesis. Till the time human population becomes stable, planning has to go on for maximum benefit and joy of the human ethnic groups. There are many scientists who call this planet a fragile planet and believed that humans probably have about 1000 years to live on Earth. This points to the need of the proper planning, perspective and management of the resources to get maximum benefit and sustain life on earth for a longer period. Now let's understand the concept of the resource. A resource is a source from which we can obtain the benefit. Therefore, any natural or the human wealth that can be used for the satisfying human need is called a resource. A resource may be directly utilized or utilized with the help of the technology. Therefore, resources are material, energy, services, staff, knowledge or either assets that are transformed to produce benefit to the humankind. Resources can broadly be classified based upon their availability. They can be renewable or non-renewable resources. They can also be classified as actual and potential on the basis of the level of development and the use. On the basis of the origin, they can be classified as living and the non-living, and also based on their distribution as omnipresent and localized. There are various benefits of the resource utilization which may include the increased wealth or wants, proper functioning of a system or enhanced well-being. From a human perspective, a natural resource is anytime obtained from the environment to satisfy the human needs and wants. And from a broader biological or ecological perspective, a resource satisfies the need of a living organism. The concept of the resource has been applied in diverse realms with respect to the economics, biology and ecology, computer science, management and human resources, and is linked to the concept of the competition, sustainability, conservation and stewardship. With respect to the human society, commercial or non-commercial factors require resource allocation through resource management. Resources have three main characteristics: utility, limited availability and potential for the depletion or consumption. Resources have been variously categorized as living, that is biotic, versus non-living, that is abiotic, renewable versus non-renewable and potential versus actual. Resources have three main characteristics: utility, limited availability and potential for depletion or consumption, as I have already told. Resources have been variously categorized as we have discussed earlier. Now let's see some definition of the resources. In economics, a resource is defined as a service or other asset used to produce the goods and services that meet human needs and wants. Classical economics recognizes three categories of the resources: also referred to as the factors of the production: land, labor, and the capital. Land includes all natural resources and is viewed as both the site of the production and the source of raw material. Labor or the human resources consist of the human effort provided in the creation of the product, paid in wage. The capital consists of the man-made goods or the means of production like machinery, building, and other infrastructure used in the production of other goods and services. In biology and ecology, a resource is defined as the substance that is required by living organisms for normal growth, maintenance, and reproduction. The main essential resource for animals are food, water, and territory. For plants, key resource includes sunlight, nutrient, water, and a place to grow. Resources can be consumed by an organism and as a result become unavailable to other organisms. Competition for the resources vary from the complete symmetric, that is, all individuals receive the same amount of the resources irrespective of their size, to perfectly size symmetric, where all individuals explicit the same amount of the resources per unit biomass, to absolutely size asymmetric, where the largest individual exploit all the available resources. The degree of the size asymmetry has major effect in the structure and the diversity of ecological communities. For example, in plant communities, size asymmetric competition for light has a stronger effect on the diversity compared with the competition for the soil resources. The degree of the size asymmetry has major effect on the structure and the diversity of the ecological communities. A computer resource is any physically or virtual component of limited availability within a computer or information management system. Computer resources include means for input, processing, output, communication, and storage. Now let's see the type of resources. The given figure shows the different type of the resources. The different type of resources can be natural resource. The natural resources are those resources which are derived from the environment. The air we breathe, water we drink, land we live, minerals extracted from the earth, and the sunshine indispensable for the life on the earth are natural resources. Many natural resources are essential for human survival, while others are used for satisfying human desire. Natural resources are classified into different categories depending on the various factors, with natural resources based on the stage of the development can be classified as actual resources, where actual resources means that those resources which have been surveyed, their quantity and the quality determinant and are being used in present time. For example, petroleum and natural gas is actively being obtained from the Mumbai high fields. The next category of the natural resources is the potential resources, resources that exist in a region and which can be used in the future. For example, petroleum may exist in many parts of the world, but until the time it is actually drilled out and put into use, it remains a potential resource. Now let's talk about abiotic resources. It comprises of the non-living things like air, water, land, mineral, etc. Abiotic are not renewable resources as they can be exhausted by excessive use and the rate of formation is extremely slow. They cannot be replenished once they are depleted. The other category is the biotic resources. Biotic resources are obtained from the biosphere and have life. Biotic resources are renewable and can be replenished or reproduced relatively quickly. Now let's talk about the renewable resources. Renewable resources are the resources which can be replaced or reproduced easily. Many renewable resources can be depleted by the human consumption but can be replaced to maintain a balance in nature. The non-renewable resources are those resources which are formed over a long geological period of time. These resources, once exhausted, cannot be renewed over a span of human life. Now let's come to the second category of the resources, that is man-made resources. Man-made resources are the material obtained. Bricks to make building, wherein the renewable resource is utilized. technology to manufacture the goods. The next category is the human resources. Humans are considered to be a special resource because humans have the capability to transform the gift of the nature into a valuable resource by utilizing the endowed or acquired knowledge, skill and technology. Now let's talk about the planning perspective of the human resources. Notwithstanding the importance of the other resources, human resources is the important of all resources. So it is very important to manage the human resource properly. There are 5 different perspectives of the human resource management. That is HRM, which include the normative perspective, the critical perspective, behavioral perspective, system perspective and agency or transaction cost perspective as given by the NIAB in 2011. Now let's talk about them one by one. The normative perspective of human resource management bases itself on the concept of the hard HRM and soft HRM on which the foundation of the human resource management rests. The concept of the hard HRM is the basis for the traditional approach towards the human resources management. This concept traces its origin to the Howard model that links the workforce management to organizational strategy. Hard HRM stresses the lineage of the functional areas such as the manpower planning, job analysis, recruitment, compensation and benefit performance evaluation, contract negotiation and labor legislation to corporate strategy. This enforces organization interest over the employees' conflicting ambitions and interest. It views the workforce as passive resource that the organization can use and dispose at will. Soft HRM is synonymous with the Michigan model of the human resource and is the bedrock of the modern approach to strategic human resource management. This model considers human capital as asset rather than resource and lays stress on the organizational development, conflict management, leadership development, organizational culture and relationship building as a means of increasing trust and ensuring performance through collaboration. This approach works under the assumption that what is good for the organization is also good for the employee. Now let's talk about the critical perspective of the human resource management. The critical perspective of the human resource management is a reaction against the normative perception. This highlights some inherent contradiction with the normative perspective. This perspective espouses a gap between the rhetoric as organizations claim to follow the soft HRM policies when they actually enforce hard HRM. A study by the Hope Hele et al. In 1997 finds that while most organizations claim employees to be their most important asset and make many commitments for their welfare and development, in reality, employers enforce a hard HRM based strategic control and the interest of the organization always take priority over the individual employee. The behavioral perspective of the human resource management. The behavioral perspective of the human resource management has its root in the contingency theory that consider the employee behavior as the mediator between strategy and organizational performance. This theory holds that the purpose of the human resource intervention is to control the employee attitude and behavior to suit the various strategies adopted to attain the desired performance. This perspective thus bases itself on the role behavior of employees instead of their skill, knowledge and abilities. For instance, an organization aiming to innovative will require a workforce that demonstrate a high degree of innovative behavior such as long-term focus, cooperation, concern for the quality, creativity, propensity for the risk taking and similar qualities. The role of the human resource management in such a context is to inculcate and reinforce such behavioral patterns in the workforce. Now let's talk about the system perspective of human resource management. The system perspective describes an organization in terms of the input, throughput and output. with all these systems involved in transactions with the surrounding environment. The organized activities of the employees constitutes the input, the transformation of the energies within the system at throughput, and the resulting product of the service, that is the output. A negative feedback loop provides the communication on discrepancies. The role of the human resource management in the system perspective is competence management to ensure that the workforce has the required competencies such as the skill and ability to provide the input needed by the organization. Behavior management through performance evaluation, pay system and other methods to ensure the job satisfaction so that employees work according to the organizational strategy, ultimately boosting the productivity. And last, setting up the mechanism to buffer the technological core from the environment in closed system, facilitating interactions with the environment in open system. The agency or the transaction cost perspective of the human resource management is another category. Among the different perspectives of human resource management is the agency or transaction cost perspective, which holds the view that the strong natural inclination of people working in groups is to reduce their performance and rely on the efforts of the others in the group. When one person delegates responsibility to another person, conflict of the interest invariably arises. The major role of the human resource management in such a context is to promote the alternative ways of controlling behavior to reduce the effect of such conflict and minimize the cost to the organization. The two major approaches include the monitoring employee behavior and the preventing shrink of the work by establishing the effective control system and improving the productivity. By providing employees with the incentive such as the rewards, motivation and job satisfaction to increase their individual performance. The human resource department need to adopt the approach that minimizes the transaction cost to the organization. Now let's see the role of anthropology in human resource planning and management. Human resource planning is an ongoing continuous process in an organization to achieve its goal by utilizing the most valuable asset, that is human resource. In this process, the current and the future resources needs are identified to achieve optimum use of the human resource. Anthropology deals with the scientific study of the man in time and space. It has two broad fields, that is physical or biological and socio-cultural, which of course is subdivided into various branches or subfield. The socio-cultural field, which is widely known as the cultural anthropology, is holistic as it combines a series of empirical, logical and intuitive inquiries. This includes field observation, that is phenomenological, critical historical, that is diachronic, and comparative, that is synchronic analysis to arrive at a meaningful conclusion. It is also used to explore and interpret the implicit patterns and meanings underlying people belief and behavior, communities and organization. Therefore, anthropology deals with the three integrated spheres of the human reality, that is structural and existential realities, the processual realities and the cognitive aspect. Anthropologists have the acquired knowledge, skill and focused perspective for human resource planning and management. Management in its broadest sense consists in the coordination of the effort of the people and of the use of the economical and technical resources in order to obtain the desired ends. Management is a socio-technical activity in the sense that it implies dealing with the people, that is the humans or social side, and with the non-human resources, that is the technical side, as well as with the interaction between these two. Human resource is a system which is mainly composed of the 5 basic processes like organizational design, recruitment and selection, organizational development, compensation and benefits, management labor relations, human resources in health sector are used to improve the quality of services and for patient satisfaction. Anthropologists have the tool required to intercede in companies in the management of the human resource and provide employer with the local knowledge of their employees and the community where it is located in the same way. We can intervene in the change process due to the acquisition of the new technologies, mergers of the companies and relocation of the operations. Anthropology is also an attitude and a filter through which we interpret the realities. Consequently, covers the entire business system from corporate strategy, guiding the practices and even the tools of each of the HR processes. The position of the organizational anthropologist may well exist inside the organization as much as there are accountants, administrators or coordinators. However, its influence can be located at a strategic level rather than in an administrative level. Since the holism on which the anthropology is basis, its practical allows to summarize all the human aspect that any management strategy can consider. Human aspects refer not only to the organizational behavior alone, but also to the relationship of the people with their work tools, technological changes, geographical context, and the predominant culture or philosophy of work in a particular society or culture. The principles of the management are the statement of the fundamental truth based on the logic which provides guideline for managerial decision making and actions. These principles can be derived on the basis of the observation and analysis such as the practical experience of managers or by conducting the experimental studies with the control of certain condition, such as study employees productivity by putting them into different situation in which managers are instructed to approach their subordinates to assign the same type of the task. In the words of the Herbert Hicks, principles of the management are the guiding rules of the law for managerial action. In the words of the Contus and the Donnell, management principles are fundamental truth of the general validity. These truths are the guiding pillars in the managerial execution of the function and solution to problems. Management principles influence human behavior. Human element is an essential factor of the production. Every worker is individually different from the other worker in regard to his or her ability, knowledge, skill, socioeconomic status, attitude, and ideologies. Management is concerned with the integration of the individual effort and how to decentralize them towards achieving the desired result. As such, management principle is said to be a work and group activity which aims at influencing the individual effort and directing them to the minimization of profit with the minimum wattage and the best possible utilization of the available resources. Therefore, proper management of the human resource is critical in providing a high quality of the services or products, be in the healthcare, items in the daily life of humans. Effective human resource management strategies are greatly needed to achieve the better outcome or benefits from a product and better access to the healthcare around the world. Now let's summarize what we have learned so far in this module. According to the Malthus theory, the area of land on the earth remains the same, but the population size keep on increasing. In this context, it is important to have different planning perspective for different type of the resource available, and it is equally important to manage those resources. A resource is used for the satisfying human needs and may be directly utilized or utilized with the help of the technology. Therefore, resources are material, energy, services, staff, knowledge or other asset that are transformed to produce benefits to the humankind. Resources have three main characteristics: utility, limited availability and potential for depletion or consumption. The three different types of the resources are natural resources, man-made resources, and human as resources. Of all the resources, the human resource is a special one as it is capable of utilizing the other resources with their endowed or knowledge. In order to utilize the human resource to the optimum, it is important to adhere to the 5 different perspectives of the human resource management, which include the normative perspective, the critical perspective, behavioral perspective, system perspective, and the agency or transaction cost perspective. Human resource planning is an ongoing continuous process in an organization in order to achieve its goal by utilizing the most valuable asset, that is human resource. Anthropologists have the tool required to intercede in companies in the management of the human resource and provide employer with the local knowledge of their employees and the community where it is located. In the same way, we can intervene in the change process due to acquisition of the new technologies, merger of the companies, and relocation of the operation. Therefore, proper management of the human resource is critical in providing a high quality service or product, be it in healthcare, education, in the education system, essential items in the daily life of the humans. Effective human resource management strategies are greatly needed to achieve the better outcomes or benefit from a product and better access to the healthcare around the world. Thank you.